Hello, my name is Ed Frawley. My wife and I own Leerburg. Got a really good question here that came in through our Ask Cindy portal on Leerburg.com, and you don't have to be a customer of Leerburg to send a question in, and Cindy answers all the questions. And we have a big database with all the past ones, thousands of Q&As in there that's searchable. But this one concerns issues with a young dog and daycare. And I'll start this even before I read the questions by saying, we are not a fan of Doggie Daycare. We are not a fan of dog parks at all. I'll read this question and we can go from there. We have an almost 7-month-old Malinois who, when we drop off at the daycare, is showing separation anxiety. He tries doing these little nips at the staff when we put him in the runs at the beginning of the day when we leave him. They said that the rest of the day he's perfect. It's just right after dropping him off that this happens. Yeah, right. That's what they're gonna say. He starts crying when we pull up to the clinic, not wanting to go in, but then they say he does excellent all day long after that. Yeah, right. We don't get it. Just want to address the nipping issue because some techs are starting to get a little afraid of him in the morning. And they probably should. But then, again, he's fine after the first 5 minutes, allegedly. I'd like to see a remote camera on him. Hope this makes sense. He does perfect in our kennel at home. He has no issues at all. Just the switch off when dropping him in the morning at the daycare. Should we nix the daycare? Yep. That's exactly what you should do. Cindy's answer is excellent, though. She's way more diplomatic than me. This doesn't sound like a classic separation anxiety. It sounds more like a young dog who is overstimulated and excited. I would not continue to take him there if this was my dog. I would expect this excitement to become more and more and more pronounced as time goes on. That's the way it works with dogs. When you let them practice bad behavior, it'll get bigger and bigger and more of a problem as it goes on. And with a Malinois, it's very important. We have bred and had many Malinois in our lives. Personally, I'm not a fan of daycare or dog parks for our own dogs. For some dogs, it may be fine, but for my dogs, it puts them in an overly excited state of mind. And this is detrimental to the type of behavior I expect from my dogs. The more you let him rehearse this crying, whining, and nipping people, the worse it's going to get, because what's the next step past a nip? A dog bite. And when he gets his way from nipping, and then he gets somebody comes that ignores the nipping and they try pushing him around and he doesn't know the dog, what's the next step? It's a dog bite. And quite frankly, when you get a dog nipping, that's a dog bite. It's just not a serious dog bite yet. It's still a dog bite. So if you have a dog, let's say in a different scenario, and people say, oh, my dog nipped that kid. No, he didn't. He bit the kid. So ultimately, the choice is yours. But I foresee problems if you continue with this daycare for this particular dog. That's the truth. And then the user came back, or the dog trainer came back. Thank you, Cindy. We have recently stopped taking him to the daycare. We now have somebody that comes over to the house and lets him out during the day. This has been a wonderful change for our dog. Thank you for taking the time to answer this. Really good question, and think long and hard about what kind of personality your dog has, the age of your dog, the background, the training of your dog before you decide to use a doggy daycare. You're much better off, I think, to do your due diligence and see if you can find somebody that can handle your dog to come to your house and hopefully let him out in the backyard and stay there with him. And I think the dog and you will be a lot happier. If you have questions on this, go ahead and write Cindy. She keeps a list of all the questions that the people have, so that if they ask a question like this, and then they come back a month later, 2 months, a year later, and ask more questions, Cindy has the ability to call up all the past questions she's had with somebody and answer them. And if you want to learn how to train young dogs like this, we have really, really good instructors in online stream and DVDs that I've produced over the past 40 years of owning Leerburg.com.